Hey, Trevor, can you do me a favor and give me an audio check? Just say something and make sure I can hear you.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, thank you. I was having a little problem with the headphones a minute ago, so I just wanted to make sure. It looks like we're at the top of the hour. Let me just do a quick look here and see if we have a quorum of commissioners. Looks like we're waiting for Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Hopkins. So let's give them another minute or two. Sorry, everyone, just stand by for one more minute. I think we just about have a quorum here. I see Commissioner Hopkins, Commissioner Heikkinen, and Stockness. I'm just waiting for Commissioner Johnson. And we will do an official roll call in just a moment. That was just me doing a quick check. Hey, Angela, are you on?
Yes.
Could you do me a favor? Could you reach out to Commissioner Johnson and just confirm that he knows this meeting is at 5, since normally they're at 6?
Yes. Give me
And
one.
since it's a special meeting, thank you.
Mhm.
I see there's an email that just came in. Did you all see that?
Yes, we did,
Okay.
I believe. Hang on one second. I'm still having audio problem. Sorry, Tom. So the email that came in, was it from Commissioner Johnson?
No, it was from Ancestral Society.
Okay. All right, I'm going to, while we're waiting for Commissioner Johnson, I'm going to try to fix my audio issues.
So Commissioner Johnson actually.
I'm going to probably log out and log back in, but I will be right back.
Trevor, did you hear me?
No, what were you saying?
Commissioner Johnson will not be in attendance.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Okay, everyone, I apologize for that. We're having a few little technical difficulties. I know at least one person was having trouble logging in. I just had a little audio issue, but I think I've resolved that. Let me see how we're doing here. And Commissioner Hopkins, we'll talk about the public comments that we've received the letters, okay? So we will get to that.
And Cheryl, while you stepped away, Angela informed me that Richard will not be able to make it tonight.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't hear that. Okay. All right, then in that case, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a June 28th City of Trinidad Planning Commission meeting. And I would like to begin with our first item, which is our roll call.
Commissioner Kelly,
I am here.
Commissioner Johnson is absent. Commissioner Stockness,
Present.
hi Diane. Commissioner Hopkins,
Yes.
hi Tom,
Yeah.
and Commissioner Heikkinen.
Present.
Good evening.
All right. We're off to it was a little bit of a rocky start, but we will make a smooth transition here right into our agenda. So the next item on our list is the approval of tonight's agenda. So this is for the commissioners. Do you have any comments or suggested changes to the items that we have on tonight's agenda? Commissioner Stockness.
So I want a break after the first item, the Civic Club review. If we're going to go into the ST ordinance, I got to have a break. I just landed from Willow Creek. There was a couple fire engines, lots of different road traffic. So I'm settled in. I've done all my homework. So I
Okay.
just would like a break afterwards, please.
Fair enough. We will definitely take a break. Other comments on the agenda for tonight? All right, seeing none, I'm going to continue to items from the floor and read my usual kind of little blurb on that to make sure we cover it, which is at this time, we offer members of the community an opportunity to raise hands, or when we're in person, you come to the podium for up to, and can speak for up to 3 minutes on items that are not on tonight's agenda. Please note that pursuant to the Brown Act of the state of California, the commission is not allowed to discuss at length or offer more than a brief comment on such items or questions. But please at this time, if you have something that's not on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand. And staff, if you see any hand raisers, please let me know. I don't see anyone at this time. Okay. I don't see any items from the floor, so we're going to go ahead then and move on to our first agenda item. This is a continued discussion from the June 16th meeting regarding the design review, the use permit and grading permit for a new permanent foundation and associated improvements for the Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse in approximately its current location and its current temporary location in the harbor area. But before I ask, normally I would go to the staff report, but before I do that tonight, I'd like to just give a brief, I'm going to try to make this brief, summary of the ex parte discussions that I have had since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, I've had discussions with Mayor Ladwig, former Mayor Rotwein, the city attorney, city manager, the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust director, the leadership team of the Trinidad Civic Club, the CEO of the Rancheria, and 2 members of the Churai Ancestral Society. The city meetings I'm not going to recount because they all focused on process, procedures, and a brief legal consultation. And there was some background given to me on some of the city and the intertribal communication challenges that have, in the past. So But in the meeting with the Trinidad Civic Club on June 18th, we reviewed the reason for the June 16th Planning Commission continuance. We kind of went over why we had continued to today's meeting. We discussed the movement of the lighthouse back in 2018 and some of the subsequent protests that resulted from that, or were in order to, or were the protests about moving it to get it moved. We reviewed the project details. All of the information we reviewed was public information in last month's packet, but I was given some more background and some specific feedback about the public meeting, the charrette, as it was called, that was held in February 27th of 2018. And that material has now been made public in tonight's packet. So in other words, things that we discussed that were not public yet are now public in tonight's packet. We also discussed feasibility of design changes for the lighthouse. Specifically, would the Civic Club entertain a discussion of a different location or a different design parameter? I guess the answer to that was we'll probably discuss tonight, but essentially it would be very difficult at this point because from their perspective, they've looked at all the options and they've spent a lot of money, and it would be very difficult for them to change direction at this point, but we'll hold that discussion. We also discussed the memo from the Analytical Environmental Services regarding CEQA, and that is also included in tonight's package. So I'm just trying to be very above board about what was discussed, and those matters that weren't public are now public in tonight's materials. Okay, I'm really trying to make this brief, but on June 25th, I had a conference call with Sarah Lindgren Akana and Kelly Lindgren of the Churai Ancestral Society, or TAS. The discussion centered on the fact that TAS is not supportive of the Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse structure being so close to Trinidad Head. I'm using my own words here. And that its presence at the entrance to the trail has an impact on those who are seeking to hold ceremonies or to pray. In other words, it forms sort of the introduction or entrance to an area that does not feel consistent with how that area should be viewed or used for prayer and ceremony in TAS's opinion. They were open to discussing all options around design changes, but couldn't comment because there was no specific design change suggested yet. I was asked by Sarah to distribute the Churai management plan to the planning commissioners, and I did that the following day. We've also included some portions of that in tonight's packet. On June 23rd, I spoke with the director of the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust, Carol Vandermeer, and that discussion centered on feasibility of moving the lighthouse to the Saunders pasture, which has now passed from private to ownership to the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust. I want to disclose that, however, the idea was discussed, but would need to be ratified by the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust Board. And that would be obviously something down the line that would need further discussion, feasibility, et cetera. So it's just, it wasn't in the idea stage. And then finally this morning, I spoke with Jackie Hustler-Carmison, the CEO of the Trinidad Rancheria regarding this project. And that discussion centered on the Rancheria's overall vision to incorporate the lighthouse into the working harbor, which Ms. Hustler-Carmison is in attendance tonight, and she'll speak to that a little later on. I asked her to kind of cover that and make that public because I thought their vision for what they would be something that maybe we hadn't heard in our previous materials. The AIS report on CEQA was also discussed. I've already mentioned that. That's in the packet. And the Rancheria made it quite clear that they are very willing to meet with both TAS and with representatives from the Yurok tribe. I would say the Ms. Hostler-Carmison's point to me somewhat was that it's not the Planning Commission's necessarily our role to try to figure out the different sort of tribal entity positions and try to understand that and make decisions on that versus on the project itself. That was what how she felt. Now, are there any other ex parte discussions that anyone else would like to share? Okay, Commissioner Hopkins.
I have to, I think I have to say that I came up with a rough idea of like a lower version, less impacted, to see if, and I shared it with the Ancestral Society and the Civic Club and engineer Josh, and just to see if anybody was open to design. And I also offered that I would help with design if anything came up, signage, kiosk, whatever, is that's what I do. And at no charge. So that's what I've done, and just needed to be clear on that.
And was there a back and forth dialogue on that, Commissioner Hopkins, or was that just an email that you sent out?
It was an email, and then I got emails back saying, yeah, maybe, you know, but location is the big thing. That's
Okay.
what I heard. And I
Alright.
did not hear from the Civic Club. So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other ex parte that we want to disclose? Okay, all right, thank you for that, and thank you for bearing with me. I was trying to have a lot of discussions and cover the bases, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, that means I need to be careful about disclosing so we all know what was discussed. All right, with that, I'd like to go ahead and kick off our discussion with a staff report, and then I'm going to ask the co-applicant, the Rancheria, to speak on this project as well.
Thank you, Cheryl. I will point out first that overall my recommendation is for a continuance, and the purpose of that would be to allow the parties to meet and discuss whether there are any options that, you know, could allow this to move forward with more agreement. And at the city attorney's recommendation, if you do plan on continuing this project, then you should also hold off on taking public testimony. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, you know, the situation could change if that meeting were to take place and the continuance. And then, you know, for example, Richard is not here tonight, so he wouldn't have the benefit of that discussion that you guys get tonight. If it were to be continued. Obviously, there are people here expecting to speak tonight, so you know, the Planning Commission can still choose to give them the opportunity to do so. We do have the city attorney on the call tonight, if any questions come up. So I'll start with that, and then if you don't continue, if you do want to move on, then I will go into more details into my staff report.
Okay, so just to make sure I understand, what we're saying is we would like to have a discussion with the commissioners. We will not open for public comment at this time until or unless we choose to not continue the item to the next meeting. And does that, Trevor, does that include having the co-applicant speak? So in other words, the Rancheria, would we hold those comments as well for now? Or shall I ask the city attorney?
Yeah, maybe Russ can offer some additional advice. You know, I think that's up to the Planning Commission to some degree, but again, like I said, Richard wouldn't have the benefit of hearing that if you do hear that presentation tonight.
I see.
And then he's part of the decision making at the next meeting.
I see.
Uh,
Russ, what's your suggestion?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I thank the Chair. Yeah, just briefly, the advice is more practical than procedural. The short of it being, if you're absent commission member who has no conflict and would participate in the ultimate determination on this action item or agenda item, it would be worthwhile, of course, for that commissioner to participate and hear all the evidence submitted during the course of the public hearing. The other practical significance is concern about the available commission members at the continued public hearing. It's good to have, you know, all of your decision-making body present when the substantive public testimony is given on an item of this nature. So from a procedural standpoint, if the staff's recommendation is to continue the item, and should the commission be inclined to want to continue the item, one procedural mechanism would be for your commission to go ahead and consider entertaining a motion from another commission member to continue this agenda item to a date certain in the future, then a call for public comment on any pending motion for continuance in case there's any specific public comment that might be germane to that limited action by your commission. So again, the advice is more practical than procedural in nature. The concern is that you take testimony in chunks and then ultimately
Right.
we have a change in our decision-making body and there's some redundancy, that sort of thing is a concern.
So someone just raised in the chat to me that the Commissioner Johnson could watch the recording of the testimony, or it's not testimony, of the statements made by the co-applicant. But what I hear you saying is that the practical and procedural recommendation is that we first have a discussion among the commissioners about whether or not we want to continue the item. Is that correct, Russ?
That is correct. In fact, you have a quorum present tonight. So if your choice or you'd rather actually hear that item and take action tonight, you do have a quorum present. So.
Okay, well, I'm going to, then based on that feedback, I'm going to suggest that we first have a discussion among the commissioners for a few moments and get an understanding of where everyone's head is at in terms of continuing this item versus moving forward with a decision in some way tonight, and based on what you've just heard from staff. So anyone who would like to start may start. Commissioner Hopkins, I see you first, and then Commissioner Stockness.
No, I bow to Diane first.
You want to go to Diane? You want to defer to Diane? Okay, Diane, you're up first.
Okay, so we spent a lot of time reading these packets, in the last 2.5 days. So I want to have a discussion. And I want to have a discussion with the members that are here. And if we have to continue it, that's fine. I would like to hear from the people who came prepared, the Civic Club, the Rancheria, and maybe TAWS, maybe they're all here. So I'm ready for a discussion. I don't really have to have action. We can wait for 2 weeks to take the action, but we've all been thinking about this. This has taken a lot of our time. And this is a sensitive and emotional issue in our community. And putting it off for 2 more weeks without even doing any kind of talk today is not right, in my opinion. Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Heikkinen or Commissioner Hopkins?
Nicely done, Diane. Yeah, there's a lot of emotions and people want to talk, but I really don't want to vote on it without Richard. I would like to have him involved. He's been around here a long time. And I think that we owe it to, I'm open to taking information. There was I noticed an email 5 minutes before I came in to this tonight also that was supposed to be for public comment. So we're still gathering information, and I'm open to hearing information, but on the flip side, I hate to do anything that a lawyer tells me not to do, and if I would listen to Russell, real quick, that's where I was going to go just before Diane talked. So there we go. I just wish-wash back and forth. I'm open.
Okay.
I'm here.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying, Commissioner Hopkins. It sounds like you're saying you would like to have Commissioner Johnson here, and well, let's hold that thought. Commissioner Heikkinen?
Yeah, I guess I'd say Diane well said, and Tom, both of you well said. I'd like to have discussion tonight. I am undecided on whether or not action is something I'm going to want tonight, but I think every time, we get into this more, there's more information that comes out and a desire for more clarification, and putting it off for 2 weeks, there's just no chance of anything happening for me. Whereas if we have the discussion tonight, at least we can have some discussion. Richard can review it, and we can go from there. And if we get to action tonight, so be it. But I'd like to see discussion tonight and hear from all the parties that are present.
All right, I think I'm in that camp as well. I believe that we can, perhaps what we can do is we can have the discussion, have the co-applicant who are here to present some information. Richard can review it, the recording. And for public comments, perhaps we can ask that the public comments, we have spent some time on them in the past meeting. Unless there's something new or in addition to the letter that was sent, maybe we can kind of confine public comments to that. Or I'll tell you what, when we get to that point, I'll ask for some legal advice on how we want to handle the public comment side of the equation. So with that, it sounds like we are proceeding. And I would like to, at this time, I think in our last meeting we heard from the Civic Club on the applicant that side from the Civic Club. So tonight the chair would like to recognize the Trinidad Rancheria, who would like to speak on behalf of the project. And I believe we have the tribal chairman, Garth Sundberg. We have the vice chairman, Robert Hempstead. And we have the CEO, Jackie Hostler-Carmison, in attendance this evening. And that's one of the reasons I was particularly interested, since we had the leadership team, in allowing them some time to present their view to the Planning Commission. So with that, may I turn it over to you, Mr. Sundberg? Would that be possible?
Yes, how you doing? My name's Garth Sundberg. I'm the chairman of Trinidad Rancheria, for who doesn't know. On behalf of my tribal council, I'd like to thank you for the in-depth review of our Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse design application. As you know, we are co-applicants with Trinidad Civic Club for the permanent location of the lighthouse. Trinidad Rancheria became involved in 2017 in initial efforts to relocate the lighthouse. The reasons we want the permanent location of the lighthouse in the harbor is to give the lost at sea and the families honor and respect. Trinidad Rancheria is extremely protective of the harbors in every environmental and cultural. We do not want to make this a political or cultural battle. So please approve this application so we can move forward. And I want to turn it over to Robert Hempstead, my vice chairman. So
I don't think he's on yet.
oh, he's not in there, Robert?
Don't think he's quite on yet.
Oh,
I can go next.
okay, well, Jackie will go next then.
All right, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. We appreciate the discussion moving forward this evening. And on behalf of Trinidad Rancheria Tribal Council, I wanted to bring up, I'm hoping that everyone was able to read not only our letter, but also the memo from AES, Analytical Environmental Services. It unequivocally states that this project qualifies for Class 3 categorical exemption as part of the CEQA guidelines, section 15303. And I really reiterate this because it is to AB 52, which would require government to government consultation. And in doing the research, doing the due diligence, I understand the position that the Planning Commission is in. You're in a very, very precarious position. But what I reminded Cheryl of today, your job is to look at the project, to review the design, and to see if it does meet those categorical exemption guidelines. And I believe the Rancheria, those properties since the year 2000, they have done nothing but develop and improve and mitigate the hazardous conditions that existed for the Trinidad Harbor. The overall vision that Cheryl spoke about includes the interpretive center. It includes a beautiful building where all of the resources, environmentally, culturally, the history of the maritime efforts and the fishing efforts can all be shared. This is not to be disrespectful to any cultural landscape. This is to improve the cultural landscape. This is to bring forward that part of history that's so important to tell. This lighthouse has been at the foot of Edward Street since 1947. So it's a very important part of this community and something that most people cherish. So I think it's super important to look at it from that point of view. The rest of the vision is about the other projects, the interpretive center, the stormwater project, and the Trinidad Memorial Lighthouse. And it is to be respectful, very respectful of the entrance to the head. And it was mentioned earlier today that this is a connection to the lighthouse on the head, of which the Yurok tribe and the BLM, the city of Trinidad, and the Rancheria are all cooperators to an MOU through the BLM. And so it's an example of what can happen if we all work together. And that's what the Rancheria is trying to do, is to continue the working pier, continue all the uses, the kayaking, the beach goers, to really be supportive of every visitor that comes, while at the same time respecting the cultural landscape. I also wanted to reiterate that the Trinidad Rancheria is a federally recognized tribe, and it does stand equal to all federally recognized tribe. And it has a right, as a federally recognized tribe, to choose its own pathway forward in the spirit of self-determination and to protect, protect our culture, resources, while also continuing to provide for the public and business uses at the harbor. We will continue to advocate and fight for the right to determine our own destiny, protect our tribal members, honor our ancestry, and have integrity and pride in the Trinidad Harbor and our homelands, while still protecting cultural resources. So overall, the Rancheria would ask for approval tonight of our application.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate your patience as we work through this process. I think you heard that it got a little bit complicated there. We're going to continue to work through this. And to that point, I'd like to just remind everyone, as a point of order, Zoom presents specific challenges to us, and we're getting public comment and dialogue in the chat right now. And I'm not quite sure how to handle that, because technically that is de facto public comment. I'm not able to read it as I'm conducting the meeting, but I know others are able to read it. So I think I would ask that you please refrain from using chat as a form of public comment at this time, if at all possible. All right. Now I would like to thank you very much. I would like to bring it back to the commissioners for a moment for some discussion, and also to our city staff. So I believe at this point, before we entertain any public comment, I'm still trying to balance this potential for a continuance with any kind of decision making for this evening. So I want to bring it back to the commissioners and ask you, based on what you've heard, do you want to continue? Do you have questions? Do you want to continue the discussion, or do you want to continue the item to the next meeting? Are there any motions that you'd like to put forward?
I move to continue the discussion in this meeting.
I second that.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Said I move to continue to have the discussion in this meeting.
To have it in this meeting, okay, and
No, I don't.
Tom? Okay, all right, you do not. Is that correct, Tom? Okay, I think he thought you were saying you wanted to continue to the next meeting.
So I wanted to clarify, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so we are still moving forward with the discussion, and I'm just a little unclear on how we want to handle public comment. So I'm going to hold public comment for now, which we normally do anyway, and let's go ahead and have the Q&A that we would normally have at this time. So this is the point in the meeting where the commissioners usually ask questions, and particularly things, by the way, that you guys, weren't able to ask last time. One of the things that I would like to mention that came up in the discussion this evening and in some of the other discussions I've had is, while there may be no legal reason for us to not approve tonight's, and that was in the packet that Trevor provided, the city staff comments as well. There might not, I think it was stated, there's not really any legal reason why we couldn't approve, but there may be some further discussions that could be had that would encourage the parties to potentially look at other options. So design changes, things like that. But there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. But I just wanted to point out that I think that's one of the reasons that staff is suggesting that we continue the item. Is that right, Trevor?
That's correct. And it's, it's not, the city can't dictate that everybody, meet and come up with another design, but we do always encourage, if someone's building a house, that they talk to their neighbors and that sort of thing. So this was in my talking with the various parties, there did seem to be a willingness to meet and discuss options. And so, if the applicants are willing to do that and accept the continuance, then I think that that's great. If they ask for a decision tonight, you can still continue it because you need additional information, or whatever the reason you might need to continue it, or you can go ahead and make a decision tonight. Okay.
Well, I feel, personally, I had questions about CEQA last time. I feel like I've gotten those questions answered. And so I'm going to defer to the other commissioners' questions at this time. Commissioner Stockton.
Okay. So Trevor, is, I think I understand the CEQA, but could it go to the city council from all of our discussions?
Yes, so the planning commission's decision would be appealable to the city council, yes.
Okay. Okay, so my other feeling is that I would like to thank the Trinidad Rancheria for all the hard work that they've done since 2017 to make the move, which I watched for 5 hours, the lighthouse move down there. I want to thank them for making the harbor a working harbor and opening up activities to the pier, the boats, the kayakers, the beach, the parkings down there. They have done their work, and I appreciate it. I'm a 45-year resident of Trinidad, and I was born in Arcata, so I've been coming up here since, the late 50s for dinner and fishing, and I've seen a lot of changes. And I just want to thank, the Rancheria for doing what they're doing and for being a co-applicant I read the AES memorandum, and I think we just have to hang in there and try to work out a plan together. Okay, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Heikkinen, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I had one for Russ, the city attorney, just kind of more technical question regarding the comment that was made by the Rancheria, or the point that, what is our purview, legally, as far as making these decisions? Obviously, this is an incredibly emotional and sensitive issue for many folks, and I'm a new member to the community as well. But I'm just curious, the standing for us to evaluate this based off, I don't know how to phrase it, the different concerns between some of the stakeholders in the area versus more the technical merits of the application. That's my first question.
Yeah, excuse me. Certainly, procedurally, you have a quorum present, so you can take action tonight. My understanding is on tonight's agenda is a continuation of a public hearing previously commenced. So you're still in the process of conducting that public hearing, gathering all information from members of the public and the applicant. Any parties that want to speak to the application need to do so in the context of this public hearing. Once that's complete, you will close the public hearing. At that time, your commission can take action. Your obligation is simply to evaluate the merits of the application on the four corners of the application pending, taking into consideration all of the comment, the concerns, and information presented by the public, and make the most informed decision you possibly can based on the application. So there's no easy answer for you. You're the ultimate decision maker. And so that is your prerogative tonight. Procedurally, again, the important thing is to continue with tonight's public hearing. If for some reason you don't want to take action tonight at the conclusion of receiving public testimony, you procedurally have the right to continue the public hearing to another date certain if there's some basis or reason to do so. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, but no, but thank you. I understand.
So yeah, perhaps it sounds to me like, if we make a decision tonight, we can make it, we can certainly have public comment prior to making that decision. If we decide after hearing public comment that we want to continue, the catch-22 here was that we were leaving Commissioner Johnson out of that. His ability to hear that public dialogue and feedback would be limited if we continued to the next meeting. So that's, I feel like, it was a little confusing to me, but I think that's the way I'm going to proceed. So with that, I would say that
You have a couple for Trevor, sorry.
Yes.
A couple questions, if that's all right. Is now okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, do that first.
So Trevor, in your staff report, you're suggesting the continuance because you think there might be a possible path forward. To completely put you on the spot, why do you think that to be the case after, because you had all these discussions and have been a party to all the hard work over this last week. What's different now going forward compared to what I'm seeing as kind of historical record of stuff in the past?
Eli and I had a chance to meet with Sarah and Kelly of the Cherokee Ancestral Society last Thursday afternoon. I think it was a very good discussion. It did, my take, there was maybe a little bit difference in tone in the meeting that we had. And I think there was genuine willingness to consider different options. I mean, clearly the preference is to change the location, but short of that, to me, it seemed like there might also be some design changes that would make it more acceptable. We didn't get into the details, but it just seemed like there was a willingness to discuss options. And then in talking later with the Civic Club, they also said that they would be willing to meet with the TAS and the Rancheria as well. So there seems to be a willingness to meet and discuss options. Certainly your continuance wouldn't be conditional on them working out a solution. They would have to come back and report that. And if they can't, then we, you know, move on with what we've got. But so that was the purpose. Again, it's not a legal requirement. It just seemed like it might avoid some problems down the road and you know, please a greater cross-section of the community.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. So, and that was my impression as well in the discussions that I've had, is that folks were willing to have a discussion, and maybe it's possible that a conclusion, you know, the plans could be changed, the location probably, you know, maybe not, but that there's some things could be adjusted and more people could be, you know, happy with the outcome. So, all right, I think at this point, if there are no more commissioner questions, I'm going to go ahead and open up to public comment at this time. So if you would like to make a comment, please raise your hand or come off mute. If you can't raise your hand, if you'd like to add, and especially something, comments that you weren't able to make in the last meeting. And Angela is going to be our timekeeper. Richard Bruce, I see your hand up. Please go ahead. I think you're on mute. At least I can't hear you at the moment. You still can't hear you. I'm sorry, Mr. Bruce. You appear to be off mute, but for some reason we can't hear you. All right, I apologize for that. It's a little technical snafu. As I mentioned, we're having a few of those. You may have to log out and log back in, but I will watch for you to raise your hand and open public comment again if I need to make sure you're heard. Other comments? All right, I am not seeing any other public comments at this time. So,
Hello.
hello, go ahead.
Hi, this is Sherry Provolt. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bubba.
I appreciate everybody's, hard work. This is certainly, a way that we want to move forward in many things. The only thing that I wanted to say, Cheryl, I wasn't able to attend the last meeting, but I do know that there was representatives of the York tribe at that meeting. And with you reaching out to the Shirai Ancestral Society, the Trinidad Rancheria, and even the Trinidad Coastal Land Trust, between these meetings, I don't think there was a reach out to the York tribe. Yet there's all through the documents, there's quoted York tribe. So if anything, I think that during this time that if you have the commission does choose to wait 2 weeks before they make this decision, I think that it would be a respectful step to reach out to the York tribe, as they are was on the MOA, that temporary location, and certainly in the letter presented by Trevor this evening. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. I did, in fact, actually send an email to you, Sherry, and also to Rosie, but I fully understand that it's better to pick up the phone. And I attempted that as well. I called the Eureka office, but I believe it was closed for COVID. So I would be happy. In fact, I would be extremely supportive of a conversation between members of the Yurok tribe, the Rancheria, and the Shirai Ancestral Society, and the city staff and myself would be happy to broker that discussion. But I will send you my cell phone number and contact information to make sure you know how to reach us as well. All right, other public comments?
Yes, this is Shirley. this is Shirley Laus. I
Yeah,
just want to
Shirley.
comment that the Yurok tribe does have an official letter that's in the public comment from last meeting. So they have commented on this issue on the agenda item. So
Thank you.
I don't know why you're saying that the Yurok tribe wasn't included or didn't have a chance, because there is an official letter in the public documents, and it was discussed with the author at the last meeting.
Thank you, Shirley. Thanks for clarifying that. I want, yeah, that was a really good clarification. My point was, as I understood, Ms. Provolt was saying that I personally had meetings with Taz and with the Rancheria and not with the Yurok tribe. But if she meant, did we not take feedback? We absolutely have entered the letter into public record. And in fact, it was one of the key discussions in the last meeting. There was a lot of concern about that, about the letter, and you know, the things that were raised in that letter by the Yurok tribe. So you're absolutely right. That feedback was taken.
And I just want to say that some of you keep referring to stakeholders and their comments. The stakeholders are, I just think that we're kind of not identifying the applicants properly, and it's kind of been mushing other people and other groups into a category of having more authority and responsibility than they actually have. The applicants are the Civic Club and the Trinidad Rancheria. And then when you talk about stakeholders, the commission is implying that other groups like the True Ancestral Society is a stakeholder in this project. When I would just like you to be clear when you're talking about groups, you know, who is the public, and putting in public comment on this, and not elevate to a group that has authority to call the shots for the Planning Commission, and to say when the Planning Commission should do something or not do something based on public comment. And it's not the Planning Commission's role, I don't think, to make sure that the application talk to every single person in the community, and you know, before the package was submitted, because the package is complete and every legal requirement was met. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Bruce?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. I'm a 45-year resident of Trinidad, live at 780 Underwood Drive. I'm very supportive of this project. I've got a letter on file that we sent to the last Planning Commission meeting that's in the packet from the last Planning Commission meeting. I would refer the commissioners back to the over 40 letters of support from community members that came in support of this project. I want to reiterate my thanks and the thanks that Diane Stockness gave to the Rancheria, to Garth, to Jackie, to Shirley, to everyone involved with the Rancheria for everything they've done to improve the harbor, the facilities at the harbor, and to offer this location to put the Memorial Lighthouse. So I just want to make that very clear. At the last meeting that I watched in regards to this, I got the feeling from, and this is not to be taken as a criticism for newer members of the Planning Commission, but newer members of the Planning Commission that may not have lived in Trinidad for very long, that rightly so, you're very concerned about cultural sensitivities, and you don't want to make the wrong decision that's culturally insensitive. I appreciate that thought. But when you have the owner of the property is the Rancheria, they're very supportive of this. The Yurok tribe appears to be opposed to it. The Ancestral Society, best of my knowledge, is not a recognized tribe. They're just a society, probably a 501(c)(3) nonprofit society. They should have no more voice in this matter than I should or any other private individual. And so what I think you're hearing is cultural sensitivity coming from the Ancestral Society and the Yurok tribe. And from the Rancheria standpoint, they're happy with the situation. There's been ground disturbance in that area already. No cultural artifacts have been discovered during it. It just has the appearance that this is a power struggle between the Rancheria and the Yurok tribe and the Ancestral Society. And I think that should be taken into consideration. And don't lose sight of the fact that the moving of the lighthouse is important to the community. I'm a stakeholder in the community. I've lived here for 45 years. There's a lot of support for this project, and don't have the cultural sensitivity issue derail this project when the ground disturbance situation, to me, appears to be relatively resolved. So that's my comment. I would like to see this move forward with an approval tonight. I'm sure there will be an appeal one way or another, whether it's to the council from the Civic Club if they lose, or they'll come from the Yurok tribe and the Ancestral Society on the other side if the project is approved. And it'll probably happen again when it goes to the Coastal Commission. This has been talked about long enough. 4 years it's been hanging around. It's time to make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bruce. Jackie, did you have your hand up to speak?
Yes.
Okay, I've been considering you the applicant, but for purposes of this, we'll just roll right with public comments, and please.
I'm happy to hold my comments, Cheryl, if that would be more correct procedurally. I have a comment about continuing it. So
okay.
I'm happy to hold it if you would prefer to end.
If you don't mind for just 1 second. I don't see that many public comments, and then I'll bring it back to the commission, let you make your comment, and then we'll have a discussion of decision or continuance, if that's okay. Thank you.
That's no problem.
So much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Other public comments?
Go ahead. You can get your handsome face.
Okay. So I don't see any other public comments at this time.
Mute.
So now that I asked you
I would like
to hold up, I'm sorry.
Ask for clarification.
Yes, please.
Because of the late submission of the Yurok tribe letter, I believe that the Civic Club should have a chance to make closing comments, if nothing else, before the commission goes into discussion. So I would hope that you would also recognize us at the appropriate time.
You know, I'd be happy to do that. Just for clarification, the letter that we were speaking of, I believe, was the letter that was submitted before the last meeting. Is that the one you're referring to, Jan?
Yes, it was submitted 5 minutes to us before the meeting. When we received it, we had no opportunity to address it, nor did any of our consultants who were attending the meeting. And so we would like an opportunity to make closing comments.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to bring it back then. I see no more public comments.
Cheryl?
Yeah.
If I could comment, I just wanted to note that an email has been received saying from Sarah Lindgren, I tried to call in and it says the conference has been locked by the host. And she wanted to know how else she can call in. So, what we'll do is we'll see if we can somehow allow some way for her to call in, and then you can reopen the public session.
Okay, that would be good. Yeah, let me know when that's sorted out, and I'll reopen public comment. And then for now, then I'm going to go ahead and revert back to Jackie with the CEO of the Rancheria, because she was about to make a comment, and then we will go from there. Please, Jackie. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, commissioners. what I would like to say tonight is something that the Civic Club shared with Trevor. And I want to make sure the commissioners understand that we are, both co-applicants are willing to meet with Tri-Ancestral Society as well as the Yurok tribe. Our hope was that the Tri-Ancestral Society, if they did have design modifications that were reasonable and meaningful to keeping the project at the harbor, that they would bring those up in public forum tonight so that we could hear what those design modifications might be. I think the error, and it would be unjust, is to say you're going to continue the meeting and then hear later that they're not willing to meet with the Rancheria. So, you know, that is an incredibly important point. If TAS and Yurok tribe are willing to meet and go over design modifications that are reasonable in the harbor location, there's a good reason to continue this meeting. If the Yurok tribe and or TAS are not willing to meet, then there's no reason to continue this meeting or to continue the hearing. I want to reiterate that you have the basis for approval under CEQA. You have exhausted your due diligence. And I thank the folks that have thanked the Rancheria, because we have worked hard. We've worked tirelessly. And this is a good project for the community. And I think it's super important for the community to see that we do honor the lost at sea and that it is important enough to be in the harbor. So, you know, continuing the meeting just to continue the meeting won't accomplish anything. It'll delay a difficult decision. So again, we're asking for approval tonight unless there's a commitment to meet from the folks that are opposing the project.
All right, thank you very much. That's really important clarification. Has Sarah Lindgren been able to join us yet? Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and, okay. Ms. West, would you like to meet?
Madam Chair, can I just quickly say, this is Bryce Kinney.
Well, hang on one second, Bryce, just 1 second. So let me go ahead and open to public comments so that I can take Bryce's, I believe it may be a point of order. I'm not sure.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to second Jackie Hostler's analysis there. If the Ancestral Society is not willing to meet with the Rancheria and the other parties, then there's really no point in continuing this. And as I stated in the prior meeting, I'm very much in favor of this. And so I think if it's not going to be a real sit down, meaningful session where all the parties will take part, then you should go ahead and approve this tonight. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kenny. All right, and let's see while we're in public comments, if I've missed any other hand raisers. I do not see any others.
Carol, there is a Mish's iPhone that has their hand raised.
Oh, okay. Michelle or Mitch, iPhone, you have your hand raised. Please come off mute if you'd like to make public comments. Maybe an accidental button push there. I don't hear anyone. Okay. All right.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. I tried to phone in and I finally found somebody to install the Zoom app. So I've missed a little bit of the meeting, but if there's a will, there's a way. So I haven't been able to hear too much except the last couple comments. And I just wanted to say, I also agree with moving forward today for all the reasons previously expressed. It's difficult for me to acknowledge a lot of the comments, but I believe I'm in part of the group that say, let's move forward. And it's been almost 4 years that a lot of people have been involved in this from all sides. So I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thanks, and sorry for the difficulty tonight on the technology side.
Well,
All right.
where there's a will, there's a way. So
Yeah, good
I
job.
found it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And
Okay.
for the record, would you mind identifying yourself? I didn't catch the name.
Michelle McHenry, MC Henry McHenry.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, I see no other public comments, so this time I think we are clear. Ms. West, would you like to make your closing comments?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry I can't be on video, but I'm out of town and using other people's equipment, so it's not capable of video. On page 4 of Trevor's staff report, she states, quote, substantial evidence shall include facts, reasonable assumptions predicated on facts, and expert opinions supported by facts. Therefore, the club asks, where are the facts and documentation presented by the Surai Ancestral Society and the Yurok tribe? In contrast, the co-applicants have submitted well over 1,000 pages of documentation at a cost of over $21,000 and countless hours of time and energy to present transparent and detailed information to the commission to ensure that they had all the information regarding our permit application. The club and Rancheria have exceeded documentation submissions for the permit, meeting all legal requirements. They have also demonstrated community support with a total of 90 letters from couples and individuals and 4 letters from organizations with multiple signatures. Is the packet incomplete? Or have the applicants not submitted what is required? Is the Planning Commission saying that we have not met the legal requirements? Regarding the issue of location, Surai Ancestral Society's participation in the site selection process in the public meeting was welcomed. If they had attended or read the public meeting documents submitted to the Planning Commission, they would have known that all the sites they are now suggesting were evaluated and eliminated by the community in the public meeting. Therefore, change of location is not an option. Regarding the view shed, we submitted photographic documentation that the views from Trinidad Head were so negligible that only on 10% of the trail were 7 views for full and 2 partial even be able to be seen, and only 7% of the trail if you don't count the partial views through the tree branches. We also pointed out that there are 2 pathways to Trinidad Head, one going up the steps at the end of the parking lot at the base of Trinidad Head, and another the road that would go past. Our contention is that the visual impact from Trinidad Head is minimal. It does not amount to any significant impacts as suggested. In conclusion, the co-applicants simply ask the planning commissioners to fairly look at both sides and make a determination in the best interest of the community. Thank you. I know you're working hard on this issue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I am going to bring this discussion back to the planning commissioners. And I guess I'll start with, as I look at the project itself, so the comment was made about cultural sensitivity. As I look at the project itself, cultural sensitivity isn't necessarily a part of what I feel my role is, and I'm only speaking for myself, Commissioner, so I'm going to talk about how I feel about this right now. So, and then I'd like to hear from each of you. The project itself, to me, meets the parameters, and it's been submitted by a private party, co-applicant with the, it's private land, co-submitted with the Civic Club and the Trinidad Rancheria. And as I look at the, we've established the CEQA technicalities are not at this point a CEQA exempt, and I'm at peace with that. I feel comfortable with that. I feel that the design elements, although they exceed the 25-foot height requirement in the particular zone, that it exceeds it by roughly, it's about 1.5 feet of it is spire. And so there's actually only 6 inches, I believe, was in the packet that exceeds, that would be a special use permit. So that was one of our my other concerns in the last meeting, was just, you know, being consistent in how we apply our ordinances and our design requirements. The cultural sensitivity, am I concerned about it? Absolutely. In an ideal world, I would like the Rancheria and the Yurok tribe and the Tri-Ancestral Society to be in harmony about this project. I don't feel that that's my particular job at the moment in terms of the Planning Commission, but I'm going to state that because I think it's obvious that we care, and I think it's obvious that a number of the commissioners care about that. I don't know that it has anything to do with how long I've lived here. I've actually known here for 20 years, but you know, so I think that qualifies me as being sort of short-term and long-term. But that's all I want to say at the moment. I'm just telling you how I'm feeling about it at the moment, but that is in no way designed to lead anyone down any path one way or the other. So I'd like to hear from you all now and commissioners, and see if there's a motion or how you're feeling at this time. How you'd like to proceed, I should say.
I'll just lead off with just how I'm feeling. From the last meeting, my concerns were primarily limited to CEQA, view protection, and the cultural sensitivity, as you stated, Cheryl. And I too basically just want to reiterate, I agree with basically everything you just said. That, you know, there's the technical merits of the application, and I kind of see that as more our purview. Despite my short time around, I've been able to go through the documents and satisfy myself that I feel like there has been opportunity for an awful lot of input, it appears, over the last 4 years. And so I'm coming to terms with that. But at the end of the day, it is private land. The application meets technical merits, and my concerns from the previous meeting have been satisfied. So that's my thoughts currently.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hopkins or Commissioner Stockness, any comments or questions you'd like to make?
You want to go, Diane, or you want me?
Okay, yeah, I'll go. I want to thank the Civic Club for all their hard work in starting in 2017 with moving it to a special concrete slab, which in the end wasn't the right thing with all the erosion of the bluff, and all their work in the community, not just for the lighthouse, but all the other work, but as fundraisers for this project, because it was important to them because of the people that live here and the people that visit and those that have lost people at sea. So I'm kind of with Cheryl and Aaron that the view sheds really are minimal, and the CEQA is taken care of. I am a little concerned with the 27 feet. And, you know, if the spiral wasn't there, it would be like Cheryl said, 6 inches. But other than that, I'm ready to go because it's time. And I think the applicants have done their work, And another thing, these meetings, these planning commission meetings have been going on for decades on the third Wednesday. And everybody's been invited, and there are public notices at the city hall and the post office. So everybody's been invited, and it just depends on if you want to get involved. And some of us are involved because we care about the community. And I'm involved, and we've gotten a lot of letters. And it seems like the public is involved and they're ready to go. They're in favor. So I want to thank the Civic Club and all the members for all the work that they've done.
Yes, I would echo that. All the work done by a lot of people on this, and especially the Civic Club and the Rancheria. So I think the only hesitation I have at this point is well, let me just ask if there's a motion. If anyone would like to make a motion to continue or a motion to approve or deny.
Did Commissioner Hopkins, were you going to make a comment after Diane?
Oh, thank you. Good catch. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Aaron.
Hopkins, please.
I was debating. I mean, it seems like an opportunity from what I've heard that people could be coming together on an idea. And then, I mean, at least that's what I heard from Trevor. I've heard from Cheryl. I've heard that even the Rancheria is open to talking with the Ancestral Society, and the Ancestral Society is open to maybe looking at certain things. I don't know, but I think it's an opportunity for us to kind of maybe like make everybody talk one more time and make it happen in a really good way, because that's what it has potential of doing. So that's what I have to say. And I thank everybody for all their work. I know it's a lot of hard work, and it's really, but there's been so much trauma around this for so long. And if there's any way to get past some of it, that would be good right now. That's my
Yeah,
take.
thank you. I think you summed up my my personal conflict, which is that I do feel like there's an interest in discussing the project and coming to, maybe a more harmonious decision. And I don't know that our deciding this tonight precludes that from happening, though. And that's, I guess, I guess that would be my question is, once the planning commission, I guess I'm looking at Trevor, but since it's Zoom, nobody knows what I'm looking at. But if the planning commission makes a decision to approve or deny the permit tonight, it can be appealed to the city council. But there's also if the design were changed, what would be the process? Would they come back to the planning commission or go on to the city council, or what do you think?
That's a good question. So if you approve the project tonight, and the parties were able to meet and discuss, or otherwise the applicants wanted to modify the project, they could do so before the city council appeal hearing. The city council has the authority to uphold, overturn, or modify your decision. So I would say that, and as has happened before, on appeal, applicants have modified their projects and it stays with the planning commission. The planning commission makes a decision on that modified project. There could be a point if the project changed to a certain degree, the city council could send it back to the planning commission as well. Like, for example, if the location completely changed or something, then the analysis would totally change, and you kind of need a new hearing for something like that, probably.
I see. Okay, thank you. All right, commissioners, what say you? I'm sorry, Commissioner Stockness. didn't see-
I want to make a motion to approve. So I'm going to try what I did last time and modify a little. So based on the information submitted in the application by the co-applicants and included in 2 staff reports and lots of public testimony and emails, the project is consistent with applicable regulations, and I move to adopt the information and the use permit, design review, view protection findings, the class 3 exemption, and the rest of the staff report, and approve the project as discussed. And then there are some conditions. I will go back to the number 3 condition where we have 3 monitors, cultural monitors, for the Rancheria, the Yurok tribe, and the Ancestral Society. And the engineer, I guess he has to be in the conditions to check the grading permit and the drainage. And then if needed, modify the design by 2 feet. So I think I covered most of it. Design review permit. And then do I need to put CEQA in there, Trevor?
You did, you included the
Okay.
CEQA exemption. So yes, I think you did a good job of covering everything. I do want to clarify on the condition with the monitors. What we did for the previous relocation was that there had to be a monitor, a qualified monitor on site, but that the Civic Club would invite the others so that they're not necessarily responsible for having to coordinate and pay for having 3 monitors, because scheduling and stuff could be difficult, but that they have to have 1 monitor at least, and then invite the other parties to be present as well. So I just want to clarify if that's what you mean, because that's what we did for the last
Well,
part.
and I figure with more monitors from the specific groups that we could touch the cultural sensitivity that's out there right now, you know, and that's why I said, you know, 3 cultural monitors. And each group that's concerned, if they do talk, they could get a monitor and they would be there.
So are you saying that that would be a requirement? They have to have all 3 there?
Well, bring it back to the commission and let them decide. And you said the Civic Club would be the one that would get the monitor, but it seems like the Yurok tribe and the Ancestral Society may want to have their monitors, cultural monitors there, because, you know, it's everybody's project and everybody's community. So if that helps with the sensitivity and the emotion that, you know, is out there, then that's what I want to put in the motion. But you're the chief, you've got the rules, the regulations, and you're doing a great job, Trevor. So
Well, I'm just trying to clarify. It seemed a little bit, I was a little bit confused. Again, do you want to require the Civic Club to have all 3 monitors from all 3 groups there, or just to have 1, but require them to invite the others to be there?
okay, I like that. Require, if that's what you suggested to us, I can't even find the motion now. Let me go back to the bottom here.
But I think well, I think we have the motion recorded. We're just clarifying the conditions. You also mentioned a height condition. So are you proposing to add another condition that they reduce the height by 6 inches? So if they reduce it by 6 inches, it would meet the height requirement.
Okay, so let's reduce it by 6 inches. And that means that they take the spiral off? Or it wouldn't be on there?
Well, they would probably just do 6 inches less of concrete, I would assume, because the spiral doesn't actually count towards the height measurement.
Okay. Okay, so I like having the regulation feet, you know, and I'm thinking that probably the tribal engineer, Josh McKnight, could probably figure that out. Okay, so do I need to say it again, or can you read it?
So just so that the commissioners know and the public knows, this is last, the packet from June 16th, and it's page 15, where we speak about planning commission alternatives. And Diane is proposing to alter the proposal condition slightly to one, meet the, it sounds like meet the, did you say the 25-foot requirement, Diane?
The city requirement, right.
So that would actually reduce its height more than the 6 inches. That would take the 1.5 foot spot, it would reduce it by 2 feet because it's 27 feet. I just wanted to clarify that for you so you know what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
So you would be suggesting taking it down 2 feet to 25
Right.
feet, and then it would be up to them how they reduce that height requirement, to that height. And then you're suggesting that the cultural monitor, the applicant is responsible for ensuring a cultural monitor. And in the current document, it's a Trinidad Rancheria cultural monitor, but they could also use one from the Yurok tribe or Taz. And I think it's because my understanding from what I was told was that they draw from the same, I could be wrong, draw from the same pool of cultural monitors. I don't know if that's correct. And Trevor should know, or maybe.
Well, and I guess it's the
how to
Civic
word
Club's
it.
duty to get the monitor, right?
Yes, generally we require applicants to, choose, whatever qualified monitor of one of those 3 entities is generally what we require. Due to the cultural sensitivity from the original move, the condition was that they have to have at least 1 monitor, but then invite monitors from all the groups to be present. But they don't have to have all 3 there. And then just to clarify on the height, so in my most recent staff report, I pointed out that certain architectural features are not, chimneys, antennas, things like that are not included in the height measurement. So the spire wouldn't be counted towards the height. So really the height is 25.5 feet currently. So to meet the height requirement, it would only need to come down 6 inches.
Okay, you're right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I forgot.
Okay,
about
so let's modify the design by 6 inches to meet the condition. What is it? The permit?
Yeah, it would be, you would add a new condition.
I did add a new condition.
Yeah,
on
so
that.
you're adding
Yeah.
a new condition, number 5, that the height be reduced by 6 inches to meet the height requirement of the zoning ordinance.
Height requirement of the zoning ordinance. Okay. So that's good.
All right, Diane, you're cutting out a little bit. Can you try that again? Can you try again? Whatever you just said, we didn't hear it.
Okay, so what I said is modify the design by 6 inches to meet the height requirement of the Trinidad zoning ordinance.
Okay. All right, is there you've heard Commissioner Stockton's motion, any questions or a second?
Could staff, I'm not sure who that would fall on, but paraphrase, restate the motion that's on the floor for clarity?
Yeah, so, and Angie, I don't know if you wrote it down, we can certainly pull up the recording, but basically it was based on the information submitted in the application, included in the staff report and supplemental information and staff report and public testimony. I find that the project is consistent with all applicable regulations, and I move to adopt the information and use permit, design review, and view protection findings in the staff report and adopt the CEQA Class 3 categorical exemption and approve the project as submitted and conditioned therein.
And then the modifications to the conditions?
And then the modifications to the condition was to modify condition number 3, that the applicant is responsible for ensuring that at least one certified cultural monitor from either the Trinidad Rancheria, Yurok Tribe, or Truray Ancestral Society is on site at all times during demolition, any soil disturbance activities. In addition, monitors from all 3 groups will be invited to be present. And then adding condition number 6, that the design will be modified to reduce the height by 6 inches to meet the height limit of 25 feet in the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, let me ask if there's a second to the motion on the floor.
I'll second the motion.
All right, Commissioner Heikkinen has seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Me.
Okay. So we have 3 commissioners in favor, 1 opposed, and with that, the motion has passed. I want to thank
Okay.
everyone for your patience with this process, and I want to especially thank the commissioners at this time for hanging in for the last 2 meetings. And I one little comment, and then we'll take a break, and everybody can do their thing. I would love to see that discussion that we described take place between the Rancheria and the Yurok tribal representatives at TAS, and come to potentially another round of design. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I would personally like to see that happen. But anyway, so with that, again, thanks very much. Thank you, Rancheria and Civic Club, for attending the meeting, and we really appreciate your comments. All right, and just so members of the public know, the commission is going to take a brief break at 6:33. Diane, you called the break. How much time do you want? 10, 15 minutes, or what sounds good?
15.
All right.
15 minutes.
15 minutes, so roughly 6:45-ish.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you back here. Hello, everyone. I think, let me just make sure we have a quorum. Our next topic is short-term rentals. I'm gonna wait for, oh, no, everybody's here. Okay. All right, so short-term rental. Let's start with a staff report, Trevor, whenever you're ready.
You guys are ambitious. I wasn't sure we'd get to this item, but I included it here since we didn't get to it at the last meeting, and it is something we kind of want to try and limit in terms of the time it takes. There is, I believe, Diane can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the STR committee meets tomorrow. So, this may be primarily an opportunity to, for any additional input or questions from the committee you'd like them to specifically look at, but I think they have been reviewing the ordinance and should come back with any specific recommendations. I did in my staff report, I sort of followed up on some of the issues and questions that came up at the last meeting. So in terms of timeline, it was decided that we should try and constrain this discussion since we do have a lot on our plate that we need to get through this year. So I was suggesting trying to keep it to an additional 3, maybe 4 meetings that would give us 2 meetings after this to go through the ordinance section by section, and one meeting to review a final revised draft, and then that can always be adjusted as needed. So caps is one of the primary issues that comes up with this iteration of the ordinance. It's what several commissioners have expressed an interest in, and the council sort of alluded to in their moratorium. So I provided a little bit more information on the existing number of STRs and caps. And so I did provide a map that shows the existing STRs, the 2021 licenses, superimposed on the zoning ordinance, so you can see where they occur. So there are 16 in the UR zone, but 88 Van Wyck, which is number 13, is for sale. So that presumably will reduce the number to 15. There's a cap of 19. There's currently 5 STRs in the SR zone with a cap of 6 and no wait list. There is a wait list in the UR zone. I think six or 7 people are on that wait list. And there are 3 STRs in the PD zone with no cap, and 3 STRs in the C zone also with no cap in the ordinance. One of the numbers that's been kind of thrown around but has come up multiple times is sort of aiming for a cap or an amount of STRs somewhere in the neighborhood of 15% of the housing stock, which is fairly common to see in these ordinances. So our best current estimate of housing units in the city is 224. That doesn't include any of the RVs and the RV parks. So 15% of that is 33.6 STRs, and we currently have, what is it, 16, 20, 27. I also provided a little bit of information about the percentage of housing units, or at least developed properties, not necessarily specific housing units. I don't necessarily know where all the second units are. We have tried to estimate that in the past, but there's probably some we don't know about. And so currently, the cap of 19 is about 15.6% of the developed parcels. In the UR zone, in the SR zone, it's a little higher at 16.7%. but there's a number of undeveloped parcels. There's not a lot of additional potential for STRs in the C zone because residences aren't, they're only allowed with a use permit and have to be associated with a commercial use. So I'm not sure if there's really a cap needed in that zone, because we've had a couple of inquiries for STRs, additional STRs in the PD zone. There has been some discussion about whether a cap for the PD zone is warranted. I did point out that 2 of the STRs that are currently in the commercial zone, if and when our general plan update ever gets approved, those will actually then be in the PD zone, or what we're going to start calling the mixed use zone, because that's a better name for that. So so there's currently 3 in the PD zone, but once that general plan amendment goes through, there would be 5, but that means there would only be 1 in the commercial zone. I think 15% of the housing stock, it might not be the best way to try and frame a cap there, but maybe fill in to get us up to the 33 or 34 citywide might be a way to do that. And the other thing I was thinking with that is the PD zone could have a cap, but then also allow additional beyond the cap with a use permit. I think that would be a way to, you know, as how the number of housing units in the city change, that would allow a little bit of flexibility. I also think that might be, it might make it a little bit easier to get the amendment through the Coastal Commission as well, to have that flexibility in there. There's also been some interest about more information about complaints and enforcement. So I did provide a flow chart that Commissioner Johnson prepared while we were discussing the ordinance, and as part of the recommendation to the City Council on the current ordinance, the Planning Commission also gave them this flow chart. And there is a complaint process in the ordinance, and it does allow the city manager to set administrative rules to help implement that. So that could be helpful. And I also provide a little bit of information about the complaints that have been received. So there have not been very many. The city has processed some violations. I believe one was a significant violation, determined to be a significant violation by the city manager, and it was actually appealed to the Planning Commission and maybe even the City Council as well. But so we have been through the process. Some people have said that they don't complain because the city doesn't follow through. Yeah, I'm not really involved too much in that process, but from what I know, I believe the city does follow through. So I'm not sure exactly where that's coming from. There is a 24-hour contact for every STR. So maybe people are just contacting that person and getting their complaints dealt with. Now they are supposed to report back to the city when they have to do that. And maybe the city is just not getting those reported out. I'm not sure. Let's see. A number of and then I discussed some of the STR committee recommendations, a number of which could just be implemented as the ordinance is currently written or with administrative rules. But I do think that the meet and greet definition is probably the primary thing I've seen out of their recommendations that would be good to include in the ordinance update. And then I also noted a few other suggestions that have been brought up at individual meetings, and I included the minutes from the joint STRPC City Council meeting from last December that I think was a good discussion and might help jog your memory about some of the things that have come up. So I believe that completes my staff reports. I'm just looking for after the STR committee regulations, or the STR committee meeting and this meeting tonight and the STR committee meeting tomorrow, I'm hoping that I could present you with a revised ordinance at the next meeting. And so any other suggestions, comments, questions to include in that would be what I'm looking for tonight.
All right, thank you. And just a quick question, because I got a comment. So Dick Bruce is on the committee, made a note that he felt that we would get more public comment on this at Planning Commission public hearings. And he suggested that we begin scheduling them ASAP. I guess I'm a little confused and wondered if there were, I mean, I think this is the public hearing, the Planning Commission itself, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page. Diane, maybe in your next STR committee meeting, you can kind of, if you don't mind, maybe clarify with them how kind of the Planning Commission is discussing this in several meetings, but they'll have to watch the agendas for the Planning Commission if they want to come to just the STR piece. And then, yeah, maybe they can give their comments that way.
And I wonder if part of the confusion, so the agenda items, sometimes on agendas, they'll be divided up into different types of discussions and actions. And in Trinidad, they're all kind of lumped together with this discussion, decision, public hearing, action. And maybe because the wording of the STR ordinance is continued review and discussion, he didn't think it was a public hearing, but everything under that heading has a public comment component. I mean, design review, use permit, grading permit doesn't say public hearing, but I think that's understood to be a public hearing.
Okay.
But I will ask the city attorney if there's something we should do differently with our agenda.
Or also clarify, is he suggesting that in person, could that be where his thought process is? He feels
Well,
more if we had an in-person meeting, but that's not really within our purview to make that call.
Yeah. Let me, I don't know if this is considered a public comment. I think not, because he's part of the committee. So he just said, I'm not going to be present for the STR discussion due to the fact that my daughter and granddaughter just arrived from Massachusetts and we're headed to dinner. My comment is basically that the STR committee gets virtually no public attendance or comments, and that we have made suggestions already. We're meeting tomorrow night and we'll try to come up with more suggestions, but I don't expect much. Personally, I feel you'll get a lot more public comment at Planning Commission public hearings, and suggest you begin scheduling them ASAP.
So maybe it was just a comment in general that we'll get more. And we've had that same comment about Planning Commission meetings and not getting enough public comment on general plan, for example. And
right.
You don't get it until it gets the city council, but that's just kind of the way it goes sometimes.
Okay. Commissioner Stockton says, do you want to weigh in?
Okay, so to get more public comment on STRs and Planning Commission business, we need to publish our meetings in the Time Standard along with the city website, and then post at the city hall like we usually do, and we're getting a new bulletin board there, and then at the post office. So if people want the information and they want to discuss, they have to go digging and get it. We are not going to keep, telling them. I mean, we've told them for decades, third Wednesday, post office, city hall, website. And on the agenda, we will put STR discussions will be at Planning Commission meetings. Look at the agenda. I mean, the the city council agenda is 2 pages, you know, and it's in the post office and it's at the city hall. But if they print it in the newspaper, it's like 3 little bullets, but it's published. And we cannot do any more than that as volunteers. I mean, what else can we do? All right, I'm done.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. Okay, so where do you want to start, Trevor? Do you want us to give you feedback on the caps? Or just let folks just kind of, you know, give their general thoughts and go through the whole, you know.
If you want to do it topic by topic or person by person, either
Yeah.
way, you know, and then if people have different ideas and, you know, so, and I'm looking for a specific direction on how to amend the ordinance. And so if there is discrepancy in the request, then we can talk about that further. Otherwise, I'll plan on incorporating your suggestions into a draft ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm just kind of trying to ground myself because I know we weren't going to try to rewrite it. It's, you know, pretty functional as is, and it was just sort of fine tuning. Commissioner Heikkinen has some.
I just suggest going forward, just do topic by topic and round robin amongst the commissioners, topic by topic. That way we can finish one and move on. So
Sounds perfect. So let's start with the timeline for review. What it was suggested that we come up with a timeline for review, 3 or 4 additional meetings after we've already had one. This is the second. I mean, I'll just throw it out there and we can round robin. I think 2 more, maybe 1 more should be sufficient.
I'd suggest 2 only because we've got an STR committee meeting coming up here. I'd be interested in what they have to say, and then that would give us a chance to meet again and then go back. So that'd be my.
All right, does that sound good, everybody? Okay, I see heads nodding. All right, caps, that's a hot item. Does anybody have some thoughts they want to share on the caps?
I had a question for Trevor. You mentioned that the 15% is kind of like a common metric. Is that, and maybe we don't know, but is that like a global 15%, or are there cities where they do 15% within each specific use category, or you kind of refer to it as a guideline? I'm just curious what the trend is with that.
You know, I haven't done a lot of specific research on it. I know Cheryl mentioned it at the last meeting, but it also came up during our discussion of the current ordinance. And, you know, I did a lot of research and looked at a lot of ordinances then, and 15% was kind of, it did vary. You know, I probably saw anywhere from, you know, 10, maybe even less to 20%, maybe even a little more, but 10 to 20% was sort of the common range, with 15% kind of being something that was seen in multiple ordinances. So, I mean, I don't, and what's right for one community isn't necessarily right for Trinidad. You know, but it does seem to kind of strike a balance, and there is some precedence in other communities to use that. And it is, you know, it is the number that we kind of used as a guideline in the original ordinance.
And I think Commissioner Hicken, you were also asking if it was like a universal cap, right? Like, could you have, you know, a 10% cap in urban, or sorry, suburban residential versus urban residential? Maybe is that 15 or something? The only ones I've seen were more universal. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, I think you could. Absolutely. You know, are there zones where, you know, more appropriate? So you might look at the SR zone and say, well, it's more rural in nature, so there should be fewer. Or maybe you say it's more rural in nature, it's more spread out, you can have a higher percentage. You know, so yeah, I think you could vary it. And then my suggestion was to kind of include a a cap in the PD zone that would kind of round out the 15% citywide. And that maybe you have varying percentages in the other zones, at least in the residential zones, the SR and the UR. Another alternative is to not have a cap in the PD zone at all, but to have add a citywide cap instead, on top of the caps in the UR and SR zone. They really wouldn't be allowed in the visitor service zone either. Well, they would be allowable, but there's just not a lot of, again, not a lot of potential for them because houses aren't allowed in the visitor service zone per se.
And when a house sells, did the STR license transfer with it?
No, it does not.
It does not. Okay. Did you guys know the growth house is for sale, by the way?
Oh, yes, yes, I did. So that's one in the SR zone that will go away. But because in the SR zone, they're under the cap, the new owner could immediately apply for an STR. Yes. And, there are other limitations that you might want to consider expanding to other zones. It was really the UR zone was the one that had the highest concentration. So that's the one with all the restrictions. So there's a restriction of, one owner can't have multiple STRs in the UR zone, but that only applies to the UR zone. You could consider expanding that to other zones. There's also a proximity restriction in the UR zone. So you can't abut another STR in the UR zone. And I believe that restriction also only applies to the UR zone.
Thank you. Other comments or suggestions on the caps? Commissioner Hopkins.
I just have a question in regards to the other side of the highway. Is that just not in the equation whatsoever?
Yeah, no, those properties are, so down along Scenic and over up Berry Road, those are all zoned SR. And there is a cap in the SR zone of 6 currently, but there are only 5. So there is room under the cap for another one.
And could I ask, Diane, you're very involved with this. Is there a big problem?
There was when we were writing the ordinance, because the community wanted neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want people coming into town buying homes and turning them into vacation homes, because we lost school children, we lost families, and it was a huge issue.
Yeah,
I mean, we had 30 meetings, 100 extra hours of work. And so I think there is a cap for the city, right, Trevor?
There's not a citywide cap. No, it was really.
Oh, I thought we had a cap of 35 at one point. Maybe Eli.
No, it's there's only caps, individual caps for the UR zone and the SR zone.
Okay. Okay. All right, Tom, do you have more questions?
No, but currently it seems to be working itself out pretty good. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the things that staff has sort of resisted doing this 2-year review. One, because I was under the impression that was part of the purpose of the STR committee, but I guess they're really looking more at implementation. But really, no, we don't get complaints. We don't see a lot of issues. There has been an uptick in requests for licenses in the PD zone. And there are a couple of people who already had an STR in the UR zone and they bought a place in the PD zone and created an STR. So, I mean, But is that a problem, or it's something that maybe could become a problem? But no, I think the ordinance is working well. You know, we have a licensing process. I mean, the STR owners and managers don't like everything about the ordinance, and residents don't necessarily like everything about the ordinance, which to me says it's pretty well balanced. So yeah, I do not recommend wholesale changes. I think that, you know, there is potential for more and more places to become STRs. So I don't see an issue with a citywide cap or a cap in the PD zone. But yeah, I do not see the need for, you know, significant changes to the ordinance based on, you know, and the input from the STR committee so far either. Their recommendations have been fairly minor.
Commissioner Stockton.
So I think we need a cap in the PD zone so we don't get out of hand. And I think Eli talked about that in the last meeting that we had about that. And it's going to become a mixed use zone, Trevor. So what is that going to mean?
That's really just changing the name to better match what that zone is. So it's called plan development. It does have some elements of a traditional plan development zone. And I think that was primarily for the large parcels, the horse pasture, the parcel behind Murphy's, and there's one actually next to Hidden Creek RV Park that's a large PD parcel, where you could do things like clustered development and things like that. But really, the way Trinidad's PD zone is written, it's really more of just a mixed use zone because it allows both residential and commercial uses. And PD zones are actually usually overlay zones. They're not zones in and of themselves. So really all it is a name change.
So it could be a motel, it could be a condo of four condos, it could be any of that. And so they wouldn't count as vacation rentals because we don't really have a definition for motel or bed and breakfast, which is a hotel or a motel. It's not.
Well, you know, we definitely talked about.
So we should.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I do believe the zoning ordinance has a definition of a hotel or a motel. I don't think there's a definition of bed and breakfast. I know we talked about it with the original ordinance, decided it wasn't necessary, I guess, but yeah, we could add a definition of a bed and breakfast. That is definitely not an STR. A hotel is not an STR. A fourplex or a duplex, you could have an STR in one. But I believe you can only have one STR, like the fourplex, for example. So Mike Ryman's fourplex, there at one point, I think there were 3 STRs in that building. And currently the ordinance limits it to 1, but in the PD zone, you can apply for a use permit and have multiple STRs on one property, but you have to get planning commission approval for that.
And they count in the cap then?
It would count towards the cap.
Yeah,
yes.
so it would be 4 more STRs, right?
I mean, I don't envision the planning commission approving all 4 of those apartments to be STRs, but potentially.
Right. Okay.
So it sounds like we have 3 decisions basically. One is, do we want to have any caps, right? Do we want to have an overall city cap? And then there are 2 zones that don't currently have caps. And that is the PD zone, which has 3 right now with no cap, and the commercial zone, which has 3 right now with no cap. And so,
Well,
it
and
might-
technically there's the visitor service zone and the public and religious zone.
oh, okay.
In the PR zone, I know of two churches that have residences associated with them, so I think they could apply for STRs. Both those properties are applying to change their zoning though to PD.
Oh, okay.
And then, oh, and the visitor service zone, there is a residence in the Trinidad trailer courts that's associated with the manager, so I suppose they could apply to make that an STR. That's not restricted currently, but there just aren't many housing units in those zones.
Right, okay. And then, so the total right now, it would appear would be 26, 20, and it should be more than that, right?
Oh, it is. It's more than that.
That's what I thought.
Well,
So-
there's a difference between the total number that's allowed and the total existing number. We have held off on doing a lottery to fill some of those since initially the council was deciding on a moratorium, and then I felt that since the Planning Commission and the STR Advisory Committee were going to be looking at the ordinance, that we'd hold off a little bit and to get a feel of how things go. But one opportunity to help increase residences in the city, since the UR zone is originally supposed to be a max of 19. Currently, as Trevor was saying, it's 16 going down to 15. This might be an opportunity to maybe establish a new maximum there of 15. And then the other zone, meaning the SR zone, which is currently 6, possibly drop that down to 5. So then we'd have 15 and 5, a total of 20 in the residential zones. And then we could play around, maybe even leave the others open for the time being, but certainly have a cap in the city of, let's say, not more than 30, overall. So that, you could possibly get up to 10 more in the other 2 zones or 3 zones or 4 zones.
So I thank you, Eli, because that's pretty close. That's kind of along the lines of what I was thinking if I made a little, matrix. And it seems like capping for the city. So yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with a city cap of 30, a UR zone of 15, and an SR of 5. But I mean, that's just my opinion. What do the other commissioners think? Maybe that's too strict.
I was amazed by, I heard the budget at one of the council meetings, and these things bring in a lot of money to the city. And yeah, I'm within reason. I don't want it to upset this town, but yeah, if we could increase something on the other side of the highway, or, just to increase some money, it could be good.
So you would be in favor of having a higher cap or no cap, Tom?
No, I'm respectful of what Eli just said right there. I think 30 in the town, but anywhere to kind of like bump it up over in other areas where I'm for, I guess, more, from what I saw. The numbers looked really well, and I thought I'd just point that out.
Yeah, so PD, so like PD, we would say no cap in that case. So they could have more in PD.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the city has averaged right around 31, 32. There are going to be additional housing. There's not a lot of housing in Trinidad, but the number of housing units increases. So I do think that can be taken into consideration. I think, I don't, in the UR zone, yeah, I think bringing the cap down a little bit might be good, but there have been people on the waiting list for a number of years that have been under the impression that they have an opportunity to get STR. So, that could become contentious if you drop it down, and, we've never held a lottery. So we don't know that that doesn't work. The SR zone, we've never really, it's always been the UR zone that's been problematic in terms of complaints. It's more densely developed. We don't get the same kind of complaints in the SR zone, but there might also be more potential for abuse on those bigger properties. You try and have bigger parties, more people, but we're I think the managers are pretty careful of that at this point. And some people absolutely disagree that budget should be a driving factor, but it's a component of the city's budget. So, my idea was that you put these caps, but then also, there is potential for use permits for additional ones that can be considered on a case-by-case basis. So as if we pass our second unit ordinance and we get a bunch of new second units, maybe that warrants the planning commission issuing a couple of use permits for additional STRs. And I think that would help smooth the way through the planning commission and through the coastal commission to have a little bit of flexibility in that. But that's just, it could be a hard cap too. That's fine.
All right. Well, and we don't necessarily need to set it at those numbers. So maybe we need to talk about it a little bit more, but maybe I should open to public comment and get some feedback. Last call for any other quick questions or comments though first.
I just had a question, Trevor. Some of the grandfathered in adjacency non-conforming parcels, which are those? I'm assuming 18, 19 there on Ocean are. What can you refresh me what the adjacency requirements are? Been going through my stack of papers and struggling to find it.
I know.
Well, I can tell you what I understand.
Sure.
And that is, you can't have an STR if you have one on either side of you. Okay. Or you can't have one that would be, I know for sure if you have one on either side, but if you have one like as a neighbor, from my understanding, they couldn't be back to back. So there'd have to be a house in between.
So then Eli, on figure one that Trevor gave us, 18 and 19 there at the top of Ocean, obviously your grandfather. And so you're saying, as the ordinance is written now, clean slate, that could never happen, right?
That's from my understanding. I know it definitely can't happen if you've got one and then you're surrounded by them on either side. But
so I have the language here in front of me.
Okay.
It's subsection G. So it says no new STR within the UR zone shall be located where it shares a property boundary with a property containing another STR within the UR zone. So it can abut an STR in another zone. So yeah, so 18, 19 wouldn't be allowed currently.
11.
Yeah, 20, 21.
But 15 and 17 would.
7 and 13. 2 and 11, but it does, that section does continue to say either of these location standards. So the other location standard in that section is there shall be no more than one STR per parcel. And it says either of these location standards may be modified through an exception approved by the Planning Commission pursuant to conditional use permit findings. So I think the idea there was something like 22 and 21 are probably some of the oldest vacation rentals in the city, and have never had a complaint as far as they've never been an issue. And so, if it, the property were inherited or something like that, maybe the planning. So I think it was that kind of situation where we included that language. So the Planning Commission does have the flexibility to allow that.
Okay, cool. Thanks. That was it.
Okay. All right. I think in the interest of, I don't know if anybody wants to make a public comment, but let me open to public comments. You can really anything about the STR ordinance that you want to mention? Specifically, we were talking about caps. If anybody has any comments, this is a good time to chime in.
Hi there, this is Sherry.
Hello. Hi.
So I do think there should be some caps on it, and is the ordinance available to review in draft? I didn't see it on the website for the city, and then also you guys are talking languages, you know, SR, UR, all these, and a map. So I don't know, you know, in relationship to homes that I have in Trinidad, you know, where those are at. So is it possible as a homeowner in Trinidad to get a map of those, you know, housing, you know, what are they called? Short-term rental? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Sherry. So this was continued from the regular June meeting, the June 16th. So that map is in that packet. We didn't actually talk about it. And then I believe that was continued from the May meeting. So the ordinance is in the May meeting, but the ordinance is also on the city's website under the box for short-term rentals too. But if you go back to the last couple packets, you will find all the information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? We're still in public comment. Sorry, one sec, you guys. I don't see any public comments. So back to the commission, and Commissioner Heikkinen had his hand up first, and then Commissioner Stockness.
So did I miss complaints and enforcement, or are we moving to that next?
We're gonna do it next. You didn't miss it.
Perfect. All right. We're just on caps. So got it. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to close off on caps because I'm not sure if we finalized what our advice was. But if I think what's on the table right now is a cap for the UR and SR zones, no cap for the other zones, and a total cap for the city. I mean, right now, I guess I'm still amenable to that approach, although Trevor's got me thinking that maybe we set it a little too low for UR at 15. But, you know, maybe there's I don't even know how to pick the number, except, you know, maybe I wouldn't add a lot, right? Like maybe 17 or something, and keep the overall cap to 30.
Could we do something where the 15 is our cap, but the two people that are on the wait list as of today perhaps could be viewed differently or considered differently because in good faith, they submitted an application anticipating a lottery process that the city has decided to hold off on. I'm just throwing it out there as kind of that way we set our cap of 15, and going forward as properties transfer, we'll never go over that. And I don't even know how the two applications factor in.
Yeah, I think you can go a variety of ways, you know, and probably for the specifics, we might want to get some legal advice, you know, probably. You know, I think there's six people with 7 properties that are on the wait list.
Okay.
But none of them had any guarantee of getting a license. So, you know, maybe it's not really an issue. It's just a question that came up in my mind is, would that, you know, because we've never had this lottery. We've never, you know, when we set the cap of 19, that was can't remember how many fewer it was, but there were more STRs that existed in that time. And then through attrition, we got down to the 19, and then even below the 19 since then. So, and you know, the lottery, it's been a while, I think, that people are waiting. So but I haven't heard anybody complain. So I don't know how much of an issue that really is.
Are the 6 that are on the waiting list in the UR all in the UR zone, or are they spread out? Oh, they're all in the UR zone. Okay.
Do you know, Trevor, do any of them create adjacency issues and would be denied procedurally off that for the 6 that are on the wait list, so they would not be part of that?
I don't know. I could look into that.
Okay, because that would help me reconcile a little bit with that piece.
All right, so let's let's look into that. And Diane has a comment.
So I want to go back to, let's see. Okay. Well, I wanted to talk about the meet and greet definition. Did we already okay that for the STR committee? The one that Dick wrote? Dick
I did
wrote?
mention in the staff report, and I think that, I mean, what was recommended seems
Okay.
reasonable to me. It seems like a good starting point.
Okay, so it says in your report, there seems to be a desire to include a definition. STR managers have stated that it's a difficult requirement to meet, but it's been supported almost universally by the public. And it was supported by the city council. They want an actual face meet and greet. And so I think the definition and what you stated, Trevor, in the report here is that what Dick Bruce outlined is a good one. We had a good discussion in the STR committee about what that means. And I don't have it right here. It's in my other pile of STR. But I know that's important. That's really important. And Aaron, that's what was an issue a while ago, was because people would check in online and then just check the box, and that just, didn't fly. We had, fireworks and the college kids from Orange County and, the pandemic, and it's kind of a mess. So the meet and greet
Before that, we
definition
were in town
came
before
up.
we bought, and I don't recall ever having a physical meet and greet.
Oh, no, but you didn't have an STR.
We did rent STRs before we found a longer term one in town, absolutely.
Yeah, so you checked the box and you didn't have an official meet and greet.
I don't believe so. I'd have to defer to my wife on that, but yeah. Anyway,
Was it during COVID?
no, it was way pre-COVID.
No,
Was it pre 2017?
No.
So is it okay to do it by phone in that new suggestion, Diane?
no.
So it had to
No.
be in person.
Yeah, and there was a timeline by 12 o'clock the next
Yeah,
day if
next
they
day.
couldn't meet because they come, in the middle of the night or the late, because that's how travel is.
I can see why the public wants it, and I can see why the managers would have a challenge with that, because you have to find a time that these people that are here on vacation can meet with you in person the next morning, right? Or, that could be a challenge. If I'm a renter, when I rent an Airbnb, I prefer not to see any owners at all. And but I'm not a partier, but I just, yeah, it's just.
Well, we did it because of the safety of the neighborhoods
Yeah, I
and the
know.
community, and we are really popular.
Yeah,
Trinidad's really popular. So I think all in all, it's good. I just wasn't sure if that was now in the STR ordinance, that meet and greet definition. It's not in there. So we have to decide then as a
right.
planning commission group that we would want to put that in the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I just wanted to kind of I was just thinking out loud a little bit about the pros and cons, right? And considering both sides of this, because that does seem like it'd be kind of the onus is on the manager to try to meet with somebody that's coming on vacation. But then, so I thought by phone, at least you're talking, if you talk to them over the phone, that's pretty good.
But did you hear me say that the city council wants a face-to-face meet and greet?
Oh, no, I didn't,
Okay,
sorry.
because
the
we
city-
talked about
okay.
it and they wanted to check the box,
Okay,
STR owners on the committee, and I said, no,
okay.
because of the things that have gone in town and for the safety of the residents and the neighborhoods, we need to go face to face. And
Well,
so that's why,
they're the boss of us, so I think we should, we should probably put it in then.
And I would just
Yeah.
suggest maybe to the STR committee, if we're going to do that, then what tracking mechanism do we want to put in place? And I hate to create paper, I hate to create that
I
kind of
know,
stuff, but I mean, even a simple 2-part NCR half sheet form saying that I met on this date, and there's a spot for the signature of the company and a spot for the renter and the address. And we can't control people, you know.
okay, so Aaron, they have to sign the good neighbor brochure.
Okay.
And they get that when they do the meet and greet. So it's all on one page. It talks about, you know, the rules of the city and what they're responsible for. And the main issue here is that if they break one of the rules, who collects the fine?
Right.
And they don't want to collect the fine, the managers, and the city can't collect it because they don't have a contract with the STRs. I think that's
So-
kind of right, isn't it, Eli? You maybe can explain that.
Yeah, yeah, they're the ones, the property managers and or owners are the ones that have made the contractual agreement with the renters. And as a result, they've collected money from them. And the city has not collected money directly from them. We only collect money quarterly from the property managers slash owners. So we don't have that individual relationship. Plus, we don't have the staff. It would be a nightmare. So as a result, it just makes sense that each property take care of, you know, if there are any penalties.
Commissioner Hopkins.
Well, collecting money, wouldn't that be just part of the deposit? And then if there's a problem, then the city just fines them, the manager.
So, some of the property managers mentioned that they don't have a deposit.
Well, that's how they do business, and then they have to collect the fine somehow.
I think that's a good point about the deposit, because if you just built it into the deposit, then they would get it back if they're, so it's less of a fine. I mean, I think Tom has a good idea, because it's less of a fine than just a, you know, you're not getting your refund. So it's like a security deposit, and part of that security deposit is based on the you know, good neighbor agreement. If there are no complaints, you get your money back.
Do we
That
have,
way, you know, it's kind of nice for the manager that way, because then they're not penalizing somebody. They're not going after them and saying, you owe us $500, you know, fine. It's more just, you're not getting your deposit back. I don't know.
do we
yes.
have any standing to do that, or any mechanism to do that wouldn't impact city staff?
Well, I was thinking that
You know, I mean, because if I heard Eli right, he's saying some properties just for whatever reason, I think it's incredibly short-sighted if I ever had a rental to not require a security deposit. That just, that baffles me. But if that's the case, that's the case. That's an individual owner's decision. So what would we do in that? How would we solve that circumstance then, you know, or how?
yeah, so that's what they were saying, is that some people don't have that. I think they just have to, then they have to collect it. But I think Tom's offering a sort of a positive way for them to potentially do that. But I guess my question too was, okay, let's say I'm the manager, and let's say I changed my policy. I have this deposit. The you know, person who rents my property, you know, breaks a rule, and so I keep their deposit, and then I give that to the city. I mean, is the city ever getting that money, Eli and Trevor, or no?
Yeah, we're supposed to get that money if there is a fine penalty.
I see. Okay. So then, go ahead, Tom, because I don't know, maybe I'm not understanding the point.
So the city would find the manager, and the manager would just tell the renter, hey, I'm gonna get a fine because of you. Therefore, you're not getting your deposit back, and the city's gonna want their money. And then the city keeps track of it, and it's part of the whole process.
Yeah.
The
Diane?
city's not gonna do that. They're not gonna keep track of it. It's the job of the property manager. So it's in their interest, like you said, to have a deposit. So maybe they do. I'm sure every place I've gone, and I don't rent STRs, but I know I tried once and they have a big deposit, like a $500 deposit. And then, there you go. There's your money. So that's not our job. That's the job of the property manager and the STRs to do that. We already battled through this on the STR committee with the property managers, with the owners, and the city, Eli, saying we can't collect the money. You've got to do it. You're in charge of them. Yeah.
Okay, so that's
And
been
that's
kind of,
why that good neighbor brochure is there. And then they haven't really had any issues with their, with their visitor renters. We had a few incidences during the beginning of the pandemic, and then it just kind of went away. So I think that's good.
go ahead. Aaron.
I just had a couple thoughts, I guess. One, just kind of a overall question. How often have we had things result in us attempting to do a fine, gotten to that point? I guess two, the timeliness of us being able, the city, us being able to get back to whoever's saying, okay, what you do is egregious enough, it warrants a fine, given the fact how quickly people issue deposits and refunds in the electronic world. And is there another way we could do this where at the time of application from this point forward in renewal applications, and I don't know if the city's even legally allowed to do this, collects some number, $200, $500, whatever, and holds it in an account where it just sits there and it's to be used if your tenant or your STR renter ever creates a fine. And if it never does, when you cancel your application, here's your money back. Here's your $500 back. I don't know if that's an option as well. Kind of like a deposit, but with the city against that issue.
Yeah, this seems like an issue that has come up a lot, and I think it's been discussed a lot at the STR committee, and I haven't really been privy to those. It does seem like the city should be able to fine managers without too much trouble. And it's up to the managers to figure out if that money comes out of their pocket or the deposit. It sounds like, and Eli, maybe you've already gotten the legal advice on this, but it sounds like we need some legal advice.
Yes, it seems logical for us to request that they, somehow get the fine from the person who's staying there. The one STR that had mentioned at the committee, from my recollection, they said that I think they have like an insurance policy that the tenant, visitor pays, and that's automatic as part of, I think, like with VRBO or one of those. So anyway, there's an insurance policy that they pay, and so therefore there's no exchange of a deposit and returning a deposit.
Okay, so it sounds like some of this has been already kind of worked through. So I don't, so maybe we should kind of shift our thinking to complaints and enforcement, which I think is what we were just talking about there. Because that's essentially, the enforcement is a fine, right? Are there other things from the standpoint of complaints and enforcement that we want to mention? I mean, there were only, it looks like 0 complaints in 2021. Now, some people, we talked about this last time, some people have said they don't make complaints because they don't get followed up on. But I can't really speak to that because it's not in the data, right? So it's not listed as a complaint.
It's not like we're swamped with complaints that we can't handle them. So-
Right, yeah.
Because technically right now, looking at the algorithm that Richard drew, I mean, in theory, complaints are resolved between the emergency contact and the tenant and me if I were to call and complain, and that's kind of the closed loop.
Yeah.
I guess my perception, having been to city council and planning commission meetings, before we bought in town, and then since then, and now being on the planning commission, is that I don't know, I feel like there's a concern that there's not enough transparency in that process, or that we're missing some, or there's not enough of a feedback loop to the complaint, so to speak. And so I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if it's, and there's concern, I guess, what I've heard expressed and anecdotal, and I have no data to validate this whatsoever. I'll be very clear on that. I'm just reading a comment here from Kathleen Lake in one of her letters to us. The issue that property managers do not report problems the public has brought to their attention. So is there a way to mandate or open up a pathway to where when, let's say, I want to make a complaint, I do two things. I call the 24-hour contact number and also shoot a quick email or click a quick form on the city thing, or maybe that's how it's supposed to happen already. I don't know. But other than that, I mean, I feel like there's a really good process in place from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I think that's sort of what the process is supposed to be. I believe the manager is supposed to report back to the city, but then the complainant is also supposed to report back to the city so that we know if the property managers are reporting back. I think the response I've heard to that is people who are being annoyed shouldn't have to jump through all those hoops. But I think, even, and part of the problem is that, Trinidad doesn't have 24-hour police coverage, but even where there is 24-hour police coverage, there's not instantaneous response. And I think the 24-hour number is actually a better way to get a quicker response than police.
Diane, you wanted to add something?
Yeah. Well, the complaints, Aaron, are on paper and they're on file in a binder in the city clerk's office. And you, as a homeowner, should have gotten a list of all the STRs with, the contact number for 24 hours. So just like, you said, you could call them, especially if it's a weekend and you can't, go to the city hall and make a written complaint. So the other thing Trevor brought up is, we don't have a policeman anymore. We had policemen for years. We always had a policeman. And now, we've got the sheriffs, and I don't even know if they were here last week, but I know they're going to be here the coming weekend because it's the 4th of July. But I think it's working okay because we haven't had that many complaints, and we really beat this STR thing hard and worked hard as a community and the neighborhoods to get it right. So I just know that the main complaint is enforcement. So
Right.
and we can't do anything as planning commissioners for enforcement except contact numbers.
To my point, though, so there's supposed to be a feedback loop from the property manager to the person that complained. And I think that's the concern, and to the city.
Okay.
I've heard expressed by a few different people at meetings I've attended that they're not confident that that's happening. That I might call you, Diane, the property owner, and say, hey, your tenant's being a pain in the butt. You take care of it, your renter, and it's fine. But you were supposed to, in turn, tell the city that you had a complaint and you dealt with it, but didn't. And I don't know, and that's what Trevor's point.
Well, maybe Eli could talk on that.
To Trevor's point, though, if you want there to be accountability, you need to provide the city with a tool to have that accountability. And to me, that would be, in addition to calling the 24-hour number, please also send an email to, not picking on anybody, but city clerk or STR complaint at Trinidad. So that way, at least we can have the data to try and reconcile.
I think people do email complaints too.
Tom, you
So
wanted to add
Eli-
something? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, what Aaron is saying and what Trevor had said makes sense because we're not, for the most part, we're not getting the complaints. So as a result, it would be good, maybe, we need to send a notice to everyone and just remind them, all the, STR owners / property managers, that they need to close that loop. Because the STR advisory committee is monitoring it, and we can't monitor it to try to correct it if we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's an incentive for them to do that, right? Because in essence, they're kind of telling on themselves. You know what I mean? Like if they just go and take care of it, then there's no incentive for them to report themselves. And I'm not sure how to fix that, but I think that's why, they're not doing it.
That's what I'm kind of suggesting, the two-pronged. One, the existing process, and at the same time I call a local contact, me issue a complaint, I also send an email to STR committee at Trinidad, and when the STR committee meets quarterly, they reconcile. I don't know, just an idea.
Yeah.
I think it would help.
Sorry,
It would help having the complainant also contact the city.
Yeah.
So that, this way we can go after the property manager or owner if they haven't reported.
Tom, did you want to add something? And I'm going to probably wrap up this discussion in the next 5 minutes or so, because we're about 3 hours into our meeting. So Tom and then Diane.
I was just wondering if maybe there's something on the website where it could just, like, if there's a complaint, come here.
Is there something on the website, you guys, that does that?
I thought there was.
The complaint form is available on the website, but it can't be submitted via the website. It can be emailed.
Okay. Okay. Diane, did you want to add something? And then I'm gonna move on.
So tomorrow, when I have another meeting, the STR committee meeting, I will talk to the property managers and tell them to close the complaint loop. So after they get the complaint, then make sure they, talk to the city and then just, finalize it or, settle it. But I think it's going okay so far. I mean, we'll see, 4th of July weekend, see how that goes.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Don't even
All
get
right.
me started about the fireworks that are coming our way. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to close this off for now, and we'll continue the discussion because we've got another discussion on this. But let me open to public comments. Those of you that have been hanging in to make comments about enforcement, this is a good time to let us know your thoughts if you'd like. All right, I see no public comments at this time, so I'm going to bring it back to the commission. Commissioner reports. Does anyone have a report from any standing committee you'd like to make?
Briefly, the Trails Committee, we went and a few, as kind of a subgroup, went and walked a few of the trails, and we're coming up with a plan to kind of come back to the Trails Committee and hopefully come forward and start making some progress finally, and maybe start on one and go from there.
Excellent. All right, any other reports? Okay, then Trevor, staff report. Any final thoughts?
I did mail you guys forms for doing parking counts. Hopefully you guys got those forms. Let me know if you have any questions. I do want to make sure we get some coverage over 4th of July weekend. However, I don't want that to be all of our surveys. I want them to be representative of other times a year, but definitely if you've done some parking counts, let me know so I can kind of keep track of when and what's been done, because I need to start compiling that and filling in some gaps. If there's a day we've missed totally or a time we've missed totally, I want to try and come back and fill those in. but yeah, this is next couple weeks are good ones to get some counts because it's going to be kind of represents the peak time probably, or one of the peak times.
I think Tom and Diane both have questions for you on that. Tom, did you have a question?
Well, I just wanted to throw out, I'm around earlier in the morning, so I'm gonna start hitting the morning. Okay, just
Great.
and yeah, I'll try to get to it as early as I can and try to get to as many as I can over the next couple of weeks. How about that?
That's great, because I think morning is probably an underrepresented time. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done one. Diane?
And I'm going to do the cocktail hour. Okay.
I'll do it with you.
Well, it's okay. Let's go.
I'm just
Friday
kidding.
night, the sunset, and I mean the sunset hour, there's a lot of traffic.
I was just
Starting
responding.
like 5-ish or a little before 5. Okay.
Okay, yeah. I like that. I like the way you think, Diane. All right, guys, thanks for hanging in. It's been a stressful couple of meetings, and I appreciate all the hard work and the passion and the dedication, and anyway, thanks for that. And it was a good meeting, and it is adjourned.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night, Diane.
Okay, you too. And I'll see you maybe, I don't know, in the next couple days.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye-bye.